Alright guys, I had to do this video. I'm still in the process of rewatching this Alabama versus Florida SEC championship game, so I'll get that video out to you soon. But I do want to talk about the college football playoffs, and the New Year's Six Bowl that were released in the first round of the playoffs that will happen, because this is interesting to say the least. Okay, so I'm going to start with Ohio State and the fact that they're number three. They made it into the playoffs, and honestly, I'm a little I don't know if I'm okay with it from this reason. So I do agree with the philosophy of there being the four best teams in the playoffs. I agree with that. That the four best teams play. The issue is one of the reasons why everyone was so adamant about there being a playoff in the first place was because Alabama didn't get to play in the SEC championship. Alabama didn't win the SEC championship in 2011, and people were so angry that they got to play against LSU in the BCS national championship. Now here we are again in 2016. Ohio State did not win the Big Ten championship. They did not play for the Big Ten championship, yet they are in the playoffs and ranked number three, even though they did not win it. And people are arguing, these same media people and the same fans are arguing that Ohio State deserves to be in the playoff because they are one of the four best teams in the nation. When, in a matter of fact, 5 years ago, the Alabama used that very same argument that they were the in the top two best teams in the nation. Yet somehow this situation is different, and Ohio State is allowed to play in the national championship, or not the national championship, allowed to play in the playoffs because they're one of the four best teams, even though they didn't win their championship. By the logic of what they said 5 years ago, Penn State should be in the championship discussion, not Ohio State. And like I said, that's not because I don't agree that the four best teams should play, but I just think it's hypocritical that people will say that Ohio State should be able to play because they're one of the best teams when that same argument was not allowed to happen for Alabama. That's a double standard. Hypocritical and a double standard. Now that I've discussed that, because I had to get it off my chest, I'm also going to discuss this Alabama versus Washington matchup. This is so interesting. All my friends here in California are so eager to see Washington play Alabama. They've been chanting, "We want Bama, we want Bama." And I'm going to get into the matchups and all of that, the previews and predictions. I'm going to do all the videos on that after my Alabama Florida video and whatnot. But first thing I noticed, I just got to go ahead and point it out here. Last time I saw Washington, their defense didn't impress me a lot. Mainly because I thought their best pass rushing linebacker was injured. One of their best overall linebackers were injured. And they didn't get a lot of rush. And that was against USC, which Alabama got a lot of rush against. So that's going to be interesting. Also, Jake Browning, while he is a smart guy, has been very efficient with the ball this year. He has a lot of effort that he puts into his deep balls. He has to really work to get the ball down the field. And that may be an issue with him against Alabama. So that's something to keep a lookout for. Also, I'm going to get into the fact that Ohio State is going to play Clemson. That might be one of the more intriguing matches of the bowl season, just because of the type of teams they are and how they both been struggling throughout the season. They both ended up with 11-1 record, but they had their close calls here and there, and they had some interesting loss. Both of them had an interesting loss. I think Clemson has been dealing with the expectations that people put on them after playing Alabama so well in the national championship last year. They come into this season and these expectations can be backbreaking. That's why Nick Saban's always on the media about anointing teams champions before the games are played, because these players, they read this stuff and they see it, and it's hard for them to stay focused. And so I think Clemson dealt with that this year because they have a lot of talent, have a lot of guys back, and they seem to just kind of be up and down a little bit. Ohio State also has been struggling. JT Barrett in particular, as I've watched him throughout the season, he's just not looked like a viable quarterback really. And that's been really interesting to see them try to work their way through that, and how their offense has been a little bit sluggish at times. They have talent. They have Curtis Samuels. They have Noah at the receiver spot, and of course the defense is good. But it's going to be interesting to see who can overcome their deficiencies, who can overcome their season-long deficiencies. That's what that game is going to be about. Who can overcome what's been giving them trouble all year, and that'll determine who wins that Clemson and Ohio State game. And so I might try to do a little preview and try to do some matchups on that too and give a prediction on that one. We'll see about how I'm doing after Alabama and Washington's videos. Also, it's interesting that people, they've been kind of down on the SEC, mainly because there's not a lot of teams that are top 10 ranked. But I found that interesting because Alabama actually has beaten 5 currently ranked teams, and Ohio State has only beaten 3. It's really, really interesting. But, you know, that's life. Uh, the reason why I brought that up is because Auburn's going to play Oklahoma in the I forgot which bowl game. Oh, the Sugar Bowl. The Sugar Bowl. And a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's this weak SEC against Oklahoma, who's turned it on the last few weeks." But I'm calling it right here, right now. If Sean White and Cameron Petway for Auburn are healthy, and the Auburn defense stays healthy during this practice season leading up to the bowl game, Auburn will beat Oklahoma. Calling it right now. Calling it right now. Also, this LSU versus Louisville matchup, that's going to be interesting because, people have loved watching Lamar Jackson this year, and Louisville's kind of stumbled down toward the end of the stretch, and LSU's kind of had an interesting season with the firing of the coach, but the players seem to be motivated to play for Coach O, and the offense had gotten a little bit better. So the matchup of whether Louisville's defense can stop the LSU running game, which has been on fire, that'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see. How does LSU respond to Lamar Jackson? How does Louisville's defense respond to Leonard Fournette and Darius Guice, who has become a monster this season? So, yeah, I just want to talk about those things. My instant reaction to this college football playoff committee's decisions and these New Year's Six bowls being decided. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think of these matchups. What do you think is going to be the most interesting thing to watch? Which game are you looking forward to the most leading up into the playoffs? And what do you think about Ohio State being able to play in this playoffs, even though they did not win their conference championship?